Today in 1776, by July 3rd, the United States had already voted for independence. That happened on July 2nd. So why wasn't the Declaration of Independence adopted immediately? Because on July 3rd, the Continental Congress did something that has sparked debate for 250 years. They rewrote Thomas Jefferson's Declaration. Not just a few commas, not just spelling. Congress made substantial changes to what would become America's founding document. Some edits improved it. Others remain controversial to this day. The question is one Americans have debated ever since. Did Congress make the Declaration of Independence better or worse? Let's look at the evidence. Jefferson's original draft was passionate. It read like a lawyer's brief, a political manifesto, and a personal indictment of King George III. John Adams later said that Jefferson possessed a happy talent of composition. But even Adams knew that Congress, not Jefferson, would have the final word. On July 2nd, 3rd, and into the morning of July 4th, Congress reviewed the document line by line. Nearly a quarter of Jefferson's original draft disappeared. Most of the changes were made for one reason: unity. The delegates wanted all 13 colonies standing behind one Declaration of Independence. If removing a paragraph secured another vote, many believed it was worth the price. Some edits were unquestionably improvements. Jefferson occasionally blamed the British people alongside the king. Congress removed much of that language. Instead, the final declaration focused its accusations on King George III himself. That was politically wise. Americans hoped that ordinary Britons, and potentially allies in Europe, might eventually sympathize with their cause. The final document became more disciplined, more focused, more universal. Many historians believe those edits strengthened Jefferson's argument. But then we come to the most controversial change. Jefferson devoted nearly 170 words to condemning the slave trade. He focused King George III of waging what he called cruel war against human nature itself. Jefferson charged the king with forcing the slave trade upon the colonies and violating the natural rights of enslaved Africans. He even condemned the crown for encouraging enslaved people to seek freedom by joining British forces once war began. Congress deleted the entire passage. Why? Well, the answer is uncomfortable. Delegates from South Carolina and Georgia strongly objected. Some New England merchants also profited from the Atlantic slave trade and had little interest in condemning it. The paragraph threatened the fragile unity that had finally produced a vote for independence. So Congress struck it completely. Today, many ask an obvious question. If those words had remained, would American history have been different? Would slavery have ended sooner? Or would the Declaration of Independence have failed to gain unanimous support, delaying or even preventing the birth of the United States? No one can know, but it remains one of history's great what-ifs. Congress made other changes as well. Jefferson originally wrote that we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable. But Benjamin Franklin suggested replacing those words with self-evident. Congress agreed. That may be the single most famous edit in American history. Think about it. Sacred appeals to faith. Self-evident appeals to reason. The change reflected the Enlightenment. Rights were not merely gifts from God to be accepted on faith. They could be understood through reason itself. That one phrase has echoed through American constitutional law, political philosophy, and civil rights movements for nearly 2.5 centuries. It is difficult to imagine the Declaration without it. Congress also softened Jefferson's rhetoric in several places. Some accusations against the king were shortened. Others were removed because delegates believed they could not be fully supported by the evidence. The result was a document that was less emotional, more persuasive. In many ways, Congress acted like a team of experienced editors. They were not trying to diminish Jefferson. They were trying to produce a document that represented 13 colonies, not one brilliant writer. So, was America better off because Congress changed the Declaration? Reasonable people disagree. Some argue Congress transformed an excellent draft into one of history's greatest political documents. Others believe that political compromise weakened its moral force, especially by removing Jefferson's condemnation of slavery. Perhaps both are true. The final declaration became a timeless statement of liberty. Yet its greatest promise, that all are created equal, would remain unfulfilled by millions of Americans for generations. That contradiction would eventually lead to the Civil War, constitutional amendments, and a continuing national conversation that has never really ended. On July 3, 1776, Congress reminded us that great documents are rarely written by one person alone. They are debated, edited, compromised, improved by some measure, weakened by others. Tomorrow, July 4th, Congress will approve the final text that the world remembers. But today was the day America's founding document became the product of the entire Congress, not just Thomas Jefferson. And here's the question I'd like to leave with you. If you had been sitting in Independence Hall on July 3rd, 1776, would you have voted to preserve Jefferson's original words? Or would you have accepted the compromises necessary to keep all 13 colonies united? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm Bruce Carlson. Join me tomorrow as we witness the adaptation of the Declaration of Independence and continue discovering who really caused the fireworks.